Hello everyone, this is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life and primarily they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories. So sign up and be our next guest. I want to say a warm welcome to Jason this morning. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. We are early risers because we work hard, but without my introduction of Jason, I'd like to hand over to him so he can introduce himself. And Jason, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jason Grant, and I have been a designer for almost 20 years now. I came to UK as a refugee from Bosnia in 95, and the entirety of my life, I've never really worked. I've always run my own business, doing design as the core part of that business, running a design agency, which has kept evolving over the years to be designing companies. And nowadays, I describe that as a process of redesigning humanity.
Wow, very impressive. No, I like that. So, redesigning humanity is probably why we're here now, because the question of the hour is who are we? And from that, I'd love your take on that.
Absolutely. So there is really four aspects of this question. There is the who am I, individual, internal, which is something basically almost entirely for me to deal with. Then there is a question of who are we as a plural, internal, and that's our intersubjective truth. There is the what is it as our objective truth, singularly, externally, and what is its or the systemic aspects and truth that is impacting on all of us. When we put together the I, we, it, and its, that's my answer to who am I. And really, that's for me a continuous quest of working that out, observing it, finding out, researching it, and using all those factoids, let's say, of what I find to redesign humanity with and from. And it's an ongoing quest. It's an ongoing quest.
And unbelievable as well, because if you look back in history, how emperors designed their empires, and if you come a bit closer to the last 100 years, how we've been redefining how we live. We've gotten things like electricity. I'll put that there, and that enables us to live slightly different. Running water, yet again, another luxury. In obviously the Western world, we have made and created who are we almost, but we've been defined by these four walls that we've put ourselves in. And that can go into our work life, it can go into all of those other aspects. So, talk to me a little bit about where you work as a person. Who are we there?
Yeah, so I've actually studied a master's degree in business information systems in 2002, and my master's degree thesis was managing virtual teams in entirely virtual environments. I foresaw 20 plus years ago that we are going to be living predominantly in virtual worlds such as this. This is a virtual world where we are chatting over a tool that previously to this I've never used before, and it works perfectly fine. And we are working together and managing each other. You are asking me questions, and I'm giving you answers within the limits of what's available time wise for today. Nowadays, they call this metaverse, which just confuses people, but effectively, it's our avatars working together. And that's where I am. I've been in the metaverse for 20 plus years and look to leverage this as much as possible for the goodness of society, starting from myself and ending with everything. And it's ongoing, as I keep saying, ongoing quest of finding out what is the most appropriate thing to do. Sometimes shutting up is the most appropriate.
Showing up, especially when you're called to the metaverse to be accountable, I think is really, really key and important. Now, if I was to say to you, I was on exactly the same journey 20 plus years ago, I remember instinctively saying to one of my bosses as going around the room, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was like, I see myself on a beach with a laptop. And everyone just turned around and looked at me as if I'd gone, absolutely. But I followed that dream. I became your flip flop CEO. I did those things and I've enjoyed that life. So I understand technology and I get where you're coming from. And I really see that as a clear, who am I? Well, I defined that quite a few years ago because who am I is the person that I want to be for me. That doesn't mean that's the same for anyone else. So, what's really cool about what you've just said is absolutely. And now we have all these privileges. I call them privileges because we can work from home. We can go and do the things that are important. We can have that work life balance. And more importantly, being able to even interview us each other right now and just have a conversation over this is powerful. Now, just imagine we're trying to do good for the world now, which we are. Not imagine, we're doing it. How much more powerful could that be when we're all joining forces to try and eliminate suffering, eliminate famine, eliminate a lot of things in this world that require some of this technology to make that happen? I mean, what is your take on the next thing you're going to do? I guess will be the question, because I'm intrigued now. I want to know.
So before we started recording, I mentioned that I'm a Gemini by horoscope, and horoscopes is something that I never really particularly believed in before. But there are all sorts of different models for understanding individual humans. There's a human design, there is gene keys, there is the Myers-Briggs types and Jungian archetypes and such like. So really, we're all made in a certain blueprint by nature. And my blueprint is such that I never work on one thing at the same time. So one of the reasons is because I've always found that working on multiple things makes the biggest impact, because inevitably bunch of those things are going to fail, and that failure is really just learning in the process. And you mentioned earlier that somebody invented electricity, and that was my countryman Nikola Tesla. He was famous for always working on multiple things, and no one would have called him an idiot or a crazy man for working on multiple things at the same time. Just some of the things that I'm working on as a project, in a sense, is, my 11-year-old daughter is going to be the Wimbledon tennis female champion 2030, and that's a project that's been running already now for 6 plus years, and it needs another 8 years to manifest itself, and it's a daily continuous improvement process, and that's really just one of the projects that I work on. So yeah.
And a very worthwhile one as well, because I'll look out for a name in Wimbledon. It's coming. You heard it first here. So all these things, I for me, it's just phenomenal how our life has evolved, or our lives evolve. I mean, I'm going to take you back to when you actually came to the UK. What was your life before you arrived at the UK?
So there's really kind of, in many respects, three aspects to my life. One one first part was when I was growing up in ex-Yugoslavia, which is actually extremely peaceful, loving, inclusive, very, very collaborative kind of country that produced people like Nikola Tesla. Yeah, that was amazing. And then the war in Bosnia broke out in 1992. So I spent 3 years of my core formative years between the ages of 11 and 14 in one of the worst wars in the last 100 years, certainly in European soil. That was also formative in the sense that I saw the dark side of humanity very early on, and I was able to work out what people were really like in those kind of pressing moments. And then when I came to UK as a refugee in 95 with absolutely zero money and no knowledge of English, that was amazing and huge shock to the system, because previous to that, I've never even seen, for example, a black person in my life. So just that was something to get adjusted to, but also new language, new culture, a huge city that was literally, I mean, London is twice the population of entire Bosnia. So it was a huge shock to the system. And then making it through all of that certainly has been a massive teacher. And I still find myself wanting to be as high up in the society as possible. Recently, I purchased a lordship title, so I'm technically a lord.
You're a lord. I'm so sorry. I should have addressed you, my Lord Grant.
That's okay.
So,
You're forgiven.
well, I didn't know about the title. Hey, it wasn't on my desk to say, "Yep, he's a lord." But now I know. I will bank that very graciously. I will put that there. Interesting. I mean, you're a fascinating person just to even talk to. And over this time that we've gotten to know each other a little bit better, I am absolutely in awe of what you've achieved. And that is thanks to your humanity. That is thanks to you recognizing something from a very early age. And I think, who are we as a collective kind of gives you that whole perspective of we're human, we're kind, we're loving, and we're caring. However, adversity can cause us to be bitter and sad. And I think you're a living example of the former where kindness and humanity just shines through. And I love that. So I'm going to say, Lord Grant, who are you?
Thank you very much. It's also very important to recognize, in my perspective, that we're constantly also changing, and 95% of our decisions are made by our subconscious mind. So if we don't recognize who we are subconsciously and don't explore that realm, we will end up making that subconscious is going to end up making the decisions for us, and we're going to continuously call it fate, which is a terrible way to live.
I want to thank you so much for your time and especially your energy today. And I really appreciate you taking part. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments, and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter, and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life, and primarily, they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories, and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories. So sign up and be our next guest.